4 years ago when I retired, I sat down and I wanted to write down all the sayings, thoughts, and words of wisdom that I've learned over the years to guide my life. And I started writing, and over a few days, I finally got done, and I may add more later, but I ended up with 114 things that I wrote down. And I took those and I shared those with my sons and my daughter-in-laws, and I also shared them with my adopted daughters. I adopt daughters because I only had sons, so I thought I missed something, so I adopt daughters. And they're and then when my children or grandchildren turned 15, I give them a copy. And anyway, my one son, the middle one, is always the middle one, came back to me and he says, Dad, you know, God only had 2 tablets and 10 sayings. You got 114 of 4 sheets of paper here. So, you know, you kind of overdid it. But anyway, just to give you an idea, get started here, what some of those sayings are. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Does not justify the physics. That's something we learned in physics in school and so on. But everything you say, everything you do, affects somebody else. Think about that. Next, peace comes from knowing and accepting that God is in charge. If you want peace, and you can't find it in this world, there's nothing solid in this world that you can put your faith in. If you trust God that everything that happens, God is in charge, and He has our and the world's best at heart. He has His plan at heart. Put your trust in that, regardless. Be the friend you want your friends to be. That's pretty self-explanatory. You know, I'd like to have these friends, but you know what? They should treat me better than I treat them? No, that's not right. Be the friend you want your friend to be. And the last one I'll share with you is extend yourself. I'll say that to the teenagers and kids here. Extend yourself. You really don't know what your capabilities are. My mother gave me this card when I was a young man. All it had on was extend. Extend yourself. And I've used that over the years because I keep finding out when I sell myself short that I really can do a lot more. And you young people, keep that in mind. You don't know what your true potential is. But the very first one I wrote down, the very first one I wanted people to remember is that you start reading this. This life is not about you. We live in a world where it's me. We live in a world where, you know, in Philadelphia they had a train wreck, and people were clawing and stepping on others to get out rather than helping others get out of the train. We live in a world where they're deflating footballs because the only important thing is me winning. There's a lot of things like that happens in this world that makes it be about me, but it isn't about me. But what is life about? Why am I here? Let's take a look at that. Matthew 22, 37 and 38. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. That is the first and greatest commandment. What does that mean? That means to love God with your whole being. Not just Sunday morning for an hour, not just when you pray during the day, but everything you do throughout your life, you do because you love God. Next one is Matthew 22:39. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Oh, we forget this for our kids. What does that mean? Do you truly love God? Can you do the first commandment when I'm doing the second one? Do you truly love God if you're not loving your neighbor? You expect more out of your neighbor than you expect out of yourself. What loving your neighbor means is you expect the same. Thanks, Bob. Sloppy. Steve, Bob just did a neighborly thing. I don't know. Thanks, Bob. If you expect more out of your neighbor than you do out of yourself, and that's not what it is, right? Be that friend if you want your friend to be. Love that neighbor like you want them to love you. Don't expect things of them. Don't make excuses for your own sins and not make excuses for your neighbors. We're all human. You know, there's one thing, one of my sayings is I expect people to be human and make mistakes. We all do. Don't expect them to never make a mistake if you're a friend, because they will make mistakes. Love them. Help them. Let's go to John 15:12. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Oh, wait a minute, God. You just made it harder on me. Jesus is saying, I have to love my neighbor like you love me. You know, that's pretty hard to do. How do I do that? You got up on the cross and died for me. How do I do that? Sets the bar pretty high, doesn't it? Let's look at what that love should look like. My favorite chapter in the Bible is 1 Corinthians 13. It's a love chapter. All you familiar with it? Anybody not? But it's a love chapter. A lot of people use it when they get married. And you'll hear it at weddings, you'll hear it afterwards, and so on. And then I've had a copy of it on our wall in our home since we got married. It's kind of been what we based our marriage on all these years, especially verses 3 through 7. Lynette's done a great job of doing that. She's very patient and kind with me, so I've not done quite as good a job, but she's done an excellent job. So, you know, next month we're celebrating 45 years of marriage. So, she's a very patient and kind person. Yeah. Well, love is patient. Love never gives up. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are struggling in life. They need you. They need a kind patience from you. They need your patience because they aren't where you are in life. Help them. There's a lot of people out there, and Christians, that are struggling with this faith. They've become good Christians and they're trying to grow in their faith. Have patience with them as they grow. Be behind them. Be in front of them, pulling them along. But don't criticize. Help them. Have patience with them. Love is kind. Love cares more for others than for self. It ain't about me. It's about others. Put them first. You hear so much about pay it forward. Well, I'm telling you, I don't like pay it forward, random acts of kindness. Here's why. I think it ought to be continuous, deliberate acts of kindness every day and everything you do. Not random, but do it continuous and do it deliberately. And you know, when you do those acts of kindness, do them over here. Do them because you love them. I'm gonna step over the edge here a second and pick on two groups. I want to talk to the teenagers. All right, teenagers. You know that your mom and dad love you, and they only want the best for you, to have the best life possible? Have patience and be kind to them. All right? A lot of patience. All right? Parents of those teenagers. You know that those kids love you? You know that they care for you? Do you remember what it was like when you were a teenager? Have patience with them. Be kind to them. Love them. Sorry, that's one of my things. I love kids. Love is not envy. Doesn't want what it doesn't have. It's not keeping up with the Joneses. It's being happy because the Joneses have what they have. Glory be, they have something nice. You know, I'm happy for them. That's what love is. It doesn't envy. It does not boast. It doesn't strut around and show off. What do you have anyway that you didn't get from God? What do you have that you didn't get from God? And besides that, when God gave it to you, what do you think He meant for you to do with it? Share with others, right? Yeah. Help other people, because He gave you those gifts, He gave you that wealth, He gave you whatever He gave you to help other people. That's love. It is not proud. You know, you remember the part about praying, you know, when you do things, go in the closet, like pray, don't do it in the open, don't just swell ahead about these things. Help other people and don't ask for, hey, you mentioned me in church that I did that. Don't do that. Do things behind the scenes that help others. You'll get your reward in heaven. Jesus got down on, I'd get down on my knees, but I wouldn't be able to get back up. But Jesus got down on His knees at the Last Supper and washed the feet of the disciples. He humbled Himself. That's love. It's not rude. Love is not rude. It doesn't force itself on other people. It doesn't expect its way. Love, we hear so much about bullying. Love is not a bully. And you think bullying is only in school? It's not only in school. It's all bullying in the workplace. Is that love? Bullying. Don't be a bully. It's never self-seeking. It isn't always me first. Me first. You know, my mother was one of those people that was always in the background. I was blessed by having her as a mother. She was always in the background. I remember her funeral. I talked about she was the wing, the wind underneath all of our wings. Be that person. It's not about you. It's about others. Help them to climb up and to find God, find Jesus, find a happy life for them and their families. Be that wind and help them sail. It keeps no record of wrong. You know when you sin, what's God do? Did you ask for forgiveness? He forgives you. Now, does He say to you, does He say, well, I forgive you, but I'm going to remember, and I'm going to put this in the check mark here, and I'm going to remember it. How many of you have a list like that? Oh, I forgave, but I remember, and I'm never going to forget that. God doesn't do that for you. We need to take that delete button on that file and just delete it. so that we don't do those things. We forgive others. And don't keep score that they sin more than me, because you know what? I think they lose. Because you know what your sins are. You don't know all theirs. So you're going to lose. Don't keep score. Love does not delight in evil. Some people, even people you don't like, when bad things happen to them, don't get happy about it. Get unhappy with them. Help them. You don't take delight in the failings of others. Rejoices in the truth. First thing is, and I think we all do this, is don't jump to conclusions. How many times do you hear something and you jump right to the ending and you know, oh, those people, they're terrible and this and that and so on, and you don't know the truth. What you should do when you love your neighbor, you want to know what the real truth is. You're going to give them the benefit of the doubt until you find the real truth, and then you don't punish them. You know. Love always protects. I think this is an important one for families. And this is an important one for church families. Love always protects. Like, there's a lot of things that happen in churches. Families break them up. There's a lot of pressure from the world to break them up. We should all be concerned with protecting the love we have and preventing those kind of things. By loving each other, by following these things in 1 Corinthians 13. Love always protects. Love always trusts. You trust those you love. Trust and verify. I think what Ronald Reagan always said, trust and verify. Well, trust. If you love somebody, you trust them. If you love your wife, you trust her. If you love your friend, you trust them. Parents, if you love your kids, trust them. Kids, if you love your parents, trust them that they're going to love you back. All right? That's hard, isn't it? Do I think I can do all these things? No, I'm the worst one in this room. I'm a big sinner. Thank God that I have God in Jesus Christ who died on the cross so I can be forgiven. Thank God I can start every day with a clean sheet of paper. Love always hopes. Always hopes for the best. The best is always going to happen. What kind of people do you like in the world out there when you're like people that are positive and people that are very friendly and stuff? Don't they make you feel good? You know, when I was working, I used to go around, and this isn't about me, it's about the other people, but I used to go around the whole floor in the building I worked in and tell everybody good morning. You know, some people told me, that was the only thing, the only day, or time of the day, that somebody actually spoke to me. Those are the kind of things you can do. We can all do. Because, you know, we like people that are positive. We like people that pay attention to us. We like people that are smiling like Christians should be because we have been saved. Love always perseveres. I don't care what you kids think you're ever going to do. Your mother and dad will never stop loving you. Period. Right, moms and dads? Never going to happen. I don't care. There's nothing you can do. The worst thing, it's not going to make them stop loving. They're going to love you. Your mom and dad. You think they're going to outgrow that, they won't. Love never dies. But it needs to be worked out. Galatians 5:13-14. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping the commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus died on the cross so that you could be free from wearing these little prayer things on your heads like they used to have to do, the Jewish people wore, probably still do. And you don't have to have your tassels the right length. You don't have to have, you have not limited on what you can do on Sunday, where if you have to get your goat out of the well, you can do it. But, those kind of things, and you don't have to focus on those things. And they were so busy focusing on the law that they forgot about their neighbor. They didn't have time. All they did was, Bob over here, he didn't do that. So he's wrong. I'm going to have to report him because he was, back in the car I drive on Sunday. He took all that away from him. And he said, look, I want you to focus on loving your neighbor. I want you to focus on your neighbors. I want you to focus on loving. I want you to focus on praising. Again, we don't have to worry about the law because we have God's grace. You don't use grace. You didn't do anything you deserved to get. He just gave it. So you have grace. So don't worry about the laws. You couldn't keep them anyway. You know what I mean? There was like 500-something laws beyond the laws that were in the Bible. Am I right, Scott? 500-something on how to follow the law. I mean, you had to have, the Pharisees and so on just to read. Yeah, Pharisees, right? The lawyers. You had to have lawyers to tell you how to not sin. Because you couldn't understand it. Freedom. 1 John 3:16-17. This is not John 3:16. This is 1 John 3:16-17. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. And we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother and sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? The greatest miracle in the world is that God came down on earth in the human form, lived like me, lived in a body like me. He felt pain like I did. He felt starvation like I did. He felt temptation like I did. And he did that for me. And then he taught us. And then he went and got on a cross, climbed up on a cross, and died so that I could be forgiven. Now, is that verse Jesus asking you to die for your neighbor? No. He's not asking you to physically die. He's asking you to die to self. Put yourself first. Put God and your neighbor first. It's not about you. Eliminate it. What a sacrifice. What a miracle. How do you do those things? You see anybody hungry? In this church feeds people all the time. You see people without clothing, we clothe people. You see people that need a smile. You see people hurting. You see kids that need help. Do you help them? People, well, that's it, man. Let me get away from here. You know? No, you help them. You do what they need. You put them in people. Kids are people too. Believe it or not, they're just like us. They're just a little younger. And I always tell people, guys, I'm not smarter. I'm just older, and I've learned the hard ways and made all the mistakes and been banged in the head enough times that I've learned. Okay? So, not smarter. You got to be there. Here's the other thing. Keep the love of God and Jesus Christ alive. That's your responsibility as a church. God loves you so much. And He says, love your neighbor. Love me, love your neighbor. Keep that love alive and growing. You know, we're being beat up on by the outside right now. Religion is being beat up on Christianity especially is being beat up very badly. Keep it alive through love, not by hate, not by hating those who are attacking us, but by loving and showing that what we're about in this church is not about rules, but love. Doesn't that make a difference? We're not going to throw people out of this church because they don't fit our rules and such. We need to love people and bring them in through love, not by judging. We'll leave you with a charge this morning. This is Philippians 2, 1 and 5. Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from His love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. In your relationship with one another, have the same mindset as Jesus. Okay. Life is not about you. Life is about loving and serving your neighbor. Or excuse me, loving and serving God, and loving and serving your neighbor. Let's pray.